So, no kings, guys. No kings, children, is the stupidest thing I've ever heard of in my life. Anyway, the retard rally ended yesterday. The No Kings protest. It was actually a really huge turnout. That was kind of cool. I mean, if you're down with that, like whatever, you can do whatever you want. That's the First Amendment right. You're able to protest. You're able to do whatever you want. No kings, you guys. No kings. We haven't had a king since 1776, okay? We haven't had one since then. And I don't think we're going to get one anytime soon. The thing that people don't understand, and I think this is what's one of the craziest things, and if you've been around long enough, if you lived through Trump's first term, you know that this dude is a major troll. That's what he does. Even yesterday, he was trolling. He was posting, pardon me, excuse me, pardon me, gastrointestinal issues or gastrointestinal difficulties. My cat's on the table. Cat, what are you doing? Can you get off the table, please? You're going to get hair everywhere, and I can't stand it. Yeah, we got a cat. I didn't think I'd ever be a cat person, but here we are. And she is one of my best friends, and she's the best. Isn't that right, kitty? Whatever. So, why am I talking about my cat? That's dumb. Where was I? So Trump is a major troll. Yesterday he was posting pictures of himself with a crown on, like AI stuff. And he posted, multiple statuses yesterday and the day before saying, or maybe it was last night, where he said, what was the quote? He said something like, I want to thank everyone who took time to go to the No Kings protest. I was very scared that someone was going to come and take my place. But you guys did a good job because I'm still your fearless leader. Now, I've gotten into multiple arguments with people. So I've been getting very active on Threads, which is the poor man's Twitter or X, if whatever you want to call it. It's Mark Zuckerberg's version of Twitter. It's okay. There's a lot of liberal empty-mindedness on there, and there's a lot of conservative empty-mindedness on there. And I think I'm really showing my butt on that app because there's a lot of things that I post where people just ratio the hell out of me. They give me more comments than they do reactions, and it's very funny to me. I try not to respond because I don't want to read I read comments. I'll say that first and foremost. I read comments. I don't like to respond to them because I don't want to give it that kind of power. But there are some things that people have said that are really funny. Like one guy told me, I think I posted, what did I post? Oh, I'll read it. I have it on my phone right here. I said, no kings, but put your mask on. No kings, but lock us down. No kings, but I'm firing you for not vaccinating. No kings, but you can't go outside. No kings, but we don't accept your exemption. No kings, but you need 12,380 boosters. No kings, but we're shutting your business down. No kings, but you can't worship the real king, Jesus. No kings, but your family members will die alone. No kings, but I'm opening a hotline so you can tattle on your neighbor, Tim Walz. Faggot. No kings, but mandates galore. No kings, but you're responsible for my health. No kings, but social distance 6 feet apart. No kings, but no family gatherings over 10. The hypocrisy is astounding. Who is actually the tyrant here? So that had to, obviously, if you are new here, which I hope you're not under the age of 5, or 5, I make it so these podcasts are not made for kids because I talk about some very gritty things and I don't want children to be exposed to that kind of stuff. But anyway, if you didn't live through COVID, you were either under a rock or off the grid. And I think like the most important part is like that was referring to COVID and the CDC guidelines that people were setting in, that they were setting in place for all this stuff. I think a lot of it, it's ironic that they're saying no kings, but these were all the people who were up your ass about not masking up or not getting your boosters or not getting your COVID vaccines or saying that if you didn't wear a mask, it was not good for them, or it somehow affected them. And all the mandates that were put in place by state governors, even my governor included Tim Walz. I probably shouldn't have called him that. I'll probably have to edit that out. But no, I don't. I don't have enough listeners to have to edit anything out. I don't care. He's a fag. Like, literally, I hate Tim Walz. He's a piece of shit. And, gosh, I'm trying to watch my language on here. But, anyway, so where was I going with this? So on Threads, there's a lot of empty-mindedness, and there was a guy who had said, the No Kings protest is in favor of ensuring that this doesn't happen again, what happened back in the day, like back in the 1700s where we were ruled by a king. He said, we don't want Trump to run a third term. We don't want him to be a tyrant or have an authoritative type government. Authoritarian, not authoritative. And I just didn't... I don't think I responded. No, I did. I don't remember exactly what I said, but it was just stupid that someone would say that, because they need to understand that, like, Trump has this comedic timing where he knows that what he says upsets people, and he's going to continue to say it. So that's not going to change. And for people to not catch on to this yet, like, I voted for him, okay? So I don't want to speak too harshly about him, but there are some things that he does, like, I think in his speeches, he kind of repeats himself quite a bit. He talks about old things. It's like, I don't care about what the last person did. Like, I lived through it, okay? I just want to see what you're doing. And I believe I covered this on another episode where I talked about this, but I don't like when politicians do that. They're like, oh, this last guy, he was a POS, or he sucked, like, he couldn't get this deal struck up, like, blah, 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 blah. And it goes, okay, but I don't care about that, because I want to know what you're doing currently. That's what I care about. That's what I voted for. I didn't vote for you to tell me how bad the last guy was. I was there. I lived through it. Like, I know what it was. But for him to troll people is just comedic level. It's so funny to me, because he does it because he knows what kind of reaction he's going to get. And for people to not understand that, to people to be so bothered by that, it's like, okay, like, I understand being bothered by being annoyed by something like that, but you don't have to turn on your TV. You don't have to read headlines. You don't have to look into any of that stuff. They find all these reasons to hate people who supported him. They find all these reasons to hate him, and it's like, okay, but at the same time, yes, he's done some really messed up things, but at the same time, it's like, he's also a human. You expect your president not to be human. Who knows about what happened in the last few administrations for the last 50 years? Like, there were some really shady things that happened that weren't covered. Now, if we covered all that now, like, if we talked about that kind of stuff today, like, you would clearly understand that people suck, okay? They make mistakes. They do things that are not in the nicest fashion. They do a lot of malicious things. And for them to just try to set him aside, to set Trump aside is just, it's weird, because it's like, okay, but yes, he was in the political spotlight before that. Everyone knew what he did. He was a development dealer, whatever. I don't know, a deal developer. I don't know what he was doing, but I knew he was one of the richest men in the country or the world. And I knew that, but I didn't really know who he was. And I just looked at him as like, okay, he's a celebrity. And then when he ran for president the first time, I was like, this is so stupid. This is the dumbest thing I've ever heard of in my life. Like, you're going to get a celebrity to be the president, and it's going to work? Like, and then I didn't really, I didn't know much about politics back then. I was too busy smoking meth. I didn't really care about that kind of stuff. But then I started looking at Reagan. Reagan did the same thing. He was a movie star. And then he turned out to be, well, I don't want to say one of the greatest presidents we've ever had, because that's not true. A lot of the things he did weren't great for the country, but granting amnesty to 1 to 3 million illegals was not good. But at the same time, it's like, your hands are tied. What are you going to do? So for them to be protesting all this stuff, like no kings, no ICE raids, they're all cowards. Like, dude, just shut up, okay? Like, we have an overabundance of illegal immigrants in this country. And they're not even immigrants at this point. They're illegal aliens. Either they've overstayed their visas, they are here under false pretenses, under false documents and names. And I know, because I work with people like that, okay? So the thing is, when you see that kind of stuff, it's like 75% of immigrants who are undocumented or not undocumented. 75% of immigrants who are here under in the of working age, like males. It's like 75% or something like that. It's crazy. It's a humongous number. At the same time, I'm not going to bash on them too hard because they're working to keep their family here. They're working to send money back to their kids or their grandparents or their parents, blah, blah, blah. Their spouse. I don't know. I don't ask because I really just don't care. Again, I'm not going to go out and try to like snitch on people because I don't care like that. It doesn't matter to me. I see these guys working hard. It doesn't bother me that they're here as long as they're not breaking the law. When they're breaking the law, that's when you start to get into like really weird territory. And I think a lot of this like no king stuff, it's like, okay, but you don't know what you're talking about. Because very little we don't have monarchs anymore. We do like in England, but what kind of power does King Charles hold? What kind of power did Queen Elizabeth hold? It's not much. They're just kind of like a title. It's like they were the first ones there. Like they're a bunch of inbreds. That's all that matters. That's all it is. And for them to be like superior to other people or the citizens and for them to like get bowed to, it's like, that's fucking stupid. It's just dumb. It's really dumb. Pardon my language. Sorry. I'm trying to watch that. But this whole No Kings thing was just so dumb. It's so unbelievably stupid and ironic and backwards for people to be against Trump or however he's being authoritative or authoritarian in a way. I don't get that. I mean, the thing is, freedom has too much freedom is not a good thing. Obviously, people can do things with freedom that are not great. Like they can murder people. They can, do sex trafficking. They can rape. They can, there's a lot of things that people can do with freedom that aren't necessarily for the greater good. And not even necessarily that aren't for the greater, they're just plain evil. But that's freedom. Like God gives us free will. Okay, so we have the freedom to do whatever we want to. So whether there are legal consequences or not. So say, for example, if I wanted to go and I wanted to kill somebody, I could do that based on my free will that's given to me by God. However, I can't do that in the country I live in. Number one, I don't want to do that, but it's just an example. You know what I mean? So if I were to do something like that, there would be legal consequences, obviously, criminal charges that would be brought up, but I had the free will to do it in the first place. So when you get to a point where you start dancing around the line with freedom, like, yes, you have the freedom to like assemble as a crowd. Like you have the freedom to do things. And I think there's a lot of people on like Threads or X that are they're getting a little too comfortable with the whole, what was a post that I read yesterday? It was some lady, she said, a huge turnout after the No Kings and the No Kings protest, and it was nice to see that not a single leftist got shot by a conservative because of their opinions. And then she followed it up with saying, it must be nice to have that kind of freedom. It must be nice not to have to worry about something like that. Like, yeah, I mean, yeah, it is probably nice, but at the same time, I don't think there's a malicious, like, I want to kill you type aspect. I mean, I could be wrong. I don't know what that party's like. I don't know. I'm an outsider on that side. I don't care. I think they hate America, number one, but they tell us they love America. I think they think that, they murder kids. I'm not a big fan of that. I think it's really stupid, and they're pro, like, socialism and communism. But they somehow think that they're the most patriotic people. And it's like that know-it-all, like, bitchy attitude that they have that's really going to cost them in the future because they act like, because they have degrees or they have gone to college, like, that they're more superior. Like, they're superior to other people. They call Trump voters, like, uneducated. Yeah, because red states have, like, lower education rates. That's not good. But at the same time, it's like you look into the number of, like, business owners under the conservative aspect. It's a lot. It's a lot more than, business owners on the left. There's not much. The thing is, you start voting a little more conservative when you get a fat paycheck, You start voting a little bit more when you start making more money. You start voting right a little bit more because you want better tax breaks. You want more money in your pocket at the end of the day. And I think that, and I'm not trying to, like, No, I don't care who I offend. I'm going to say this anyway. So the people that you see on the left are either completely uninformed boomers who just want to piss their kids off even more because they don't want to give them anything, or it's people who are unemployed. They live with their mom, or they live with their dad, or they live with their parents, or whatever, or their grandparents. They live in the basement. They're all about social justice and activism and all this crap. And it's like, okay, well, I get that you're passionate about something, and that's fine. But when you start getting like weird about it, and you start saying like there's oppression in America today, just because there are people who are here illegally, or because people are born into a poor neighborhood or a poor family, it's like we all bleed the same color. We all bleed red. Everyone's given the same exact opportunities as anyone else in this country. It's just how you apply yourself. And the thing is, no one wants to hear this. No one wants to talk about this, that everyone's given the same exact opportunities in this country. Point blank. It doesn't matter what kind of family you're born into. Do people that are rich or have wealthy families, are they at a greater advantage? Of course they are. But then that gives you the drive to be able to work harder and to be pulling yourself up from your bootstraps and moving forward. That doesn't change, but you have the opportunities. The thing is, like, if you want to go to college, anyone can get a grant these days. Anyone can get their college paid for. I mean, for crying out loud, look at the DREAM Act. What is it? The DREAM Act 1970? Let me look that up quick before I start speaking about this, because I know that there was a girl, there was a woman, girl. She's a woman now, but there was a girl in my high school. She did a presentation on this sort of thing. Oh, I'm sorry. It was 2001. I thought it was 1979. So I was wrong. I'll say that. I was wrong. So it's a DREAM Act in 2001. It's the Development, Relief, and Education for Alien Minors Act. Introduced 2001 by Senators Dick Durbin from Illinois and Orrin Hatch from Utah to provide a pathway to legal status for certain undocumented immigrants who were brought to the U.S. as children, dreamers, if they met requirements such as education, military service, and good moral character. So it's like a sort of like an amnesty type thing. Like if you minded your P's and Q's, if you came here and you weren't documented, or you were, is that what it said? Yeah, I gotta read this thing back. Damn. Not good radio. Sorry, guys. Oh, yeah, no, they were undocumented. They were brought to the U.S. as children. So if they met the requirements, like they had good grades, they were in the military, or they were like good moral characters, so they have to go in front of a board, I'm assuming, and do like a presentation or an interview of some sort. So it would give them pathway to legal status a little bit easier. That's a good form of like reform. Okay, I thought that there was some sort of an act that gave them like free college. Maybe I was wrong on that. Yeah, I was wrong on that. Damn. But the thing, like the point being, is you are given opportunities in this country, whether you're documented or undocumented. Like I got into arguments with people about free Medicare for illegal aliens. Now they don't get full Medicare, but they do get certain benefits, like human right benefits, like, you get to go to a hospital if you're like messed up or whatever, and that's fine. But there's just certain things. I'm kind of crossing over into some weird territory here because I don't know what I'm really talking about. But there's just people who argue for the sake of arguing, and I've noticed that. And you see it so much on social media. It's like people who are chronically online, and they accuse me of being chronically online or being a bot because I'll say things that aren't necessarily true. Like, I tried to get a guest on Friday. It was a guy who was replying to my posts with videos, and he was just rambling on for like 2 minutes. And I wasn't going to make a video back to him because I didn't really care that much. But I asked him, I messaged him, I said, do you want to have like a long form conversation, talk about some things? I feel like that would do more justice than going back and forth on threads. Well, he kept going, and then he finally finished one video and said he didn't want to talk to me. And I'm like, okay, well, you're kind of being a bitch, but so I'm like, whatever. You know, it's weird how people just don't want to talk. If you don't agree with them, I mean, that's really how we're never going to get past any division or social issues if we don't talk to each other. And that's the problem. When you say things that go against the narrative for people, even on the right too, if you say things that go against the narrative that they want, they don't want to talk to you. And I get why, but at the same time, it's like if you're not politically aligned, like why would you not want to talk to someone who's on the other side of the aisle fairly and give them a chance? Talk to them. Maybe they'll give you a chance and you can talk. Just talk things out. We need to come together as a nation and understand that we probably have a lot more in common than we think. But when you see things like assassinations happen, division online, basic hatred, or even chat groups that are being leaked to the public, that's weird. We'll get into that because I want to talk about that. So there was a chat that got leaked. I'm going to read about it. So it was a bunch of like teenagers, 20-year-olds. So it was the Young Republican National Federation Members Organization. It's from January to mid-August 2025 this year. It was a Telegram. I have my opinions on Telegram. I think it's full of pedophiles and child rapists because that's just what it is. I mean, you can get some very exclusive content on there. However, there are some things on there that, so I watch, what's his name? Alex Rosen. Shout out Alex Rosen for the I Fight for Kids. He goes to catch all the pedophiles. And a lot of these dudes admit to like being on Telegram and seeing like CP. They see things like that. And it's very disturbing. It's just kind of there's just where people what's the word I'm looking for here? They can kind of group up and like find like-minded individuals and they can share some good things or some really weird bad things like CP, for example. So there's a group called Restorer. They don't even know how to spell. War Room, containing senior members of various state chapters in the New York State Young Republicans and other Young Republicans chapters, was exposed. Chat log spans approximately 2,900 pages of messages. Messages included extremely offensive content, racist slurs, anti-Semitic remarks, homophobic language, violent and sexist comments, praise for Adolf Hitler, references to gas chambers, etc. For example, one member said, and I quote, "I love Hitler." Another, and I quote, "Everyone that votes no is going to the gas chamber," end quote. Another one, black people referred to as quote-unquote monkeys and quote-unquote watermelon people. A number of participants held roles in or had ties to the GOP youth apparatus. At least one was a state legislator. Some chapters were suspended or disbanded. Calls for resignations. So this is weird because I know I've talked about this before. I'm very vocal about this. People, extremists on the left and the right, are going to ruin your movement no matter what because they don't care what they say. They paint this horrible picture for the entire party. So, for example, these people saying all this weird, benign crap on this chat room immediately gives the left fuel against the Republicans or the right. Let's say that. Just like people, trans people or whatever, people of the LGBTQIA plus community, if they do something like are found in possession of CP or have found to sexually assault a young boy or what, they do just wild things. It paints that side that it belongs to as a group as a whole. And my economics teacher, one of the greatest dudes ever, shout out Mr. Huss. You're probably not listening to this, but if you are, what's up, dude? One of the coolest dudes, I think, to ever teach us. And he said that we shouldn't be, he said that a lot, so he was a baby boomer. He was a boomer. And he said that a lot of people in his generation painted our generation with the same brush, and you can't do that. He got to know us on a personal level, like where we talked about geography, economics, government. We talked about all that stuff. And he really was a great teacher because he put it in real world situations. But he made a statement like that. You can't paint one generation with the same brush because that's not fair. It's like you can't paint one whole religion with the same brush because that's not fair. Because a lot of extremists are going to screw the whole thing up. Just like a lot of idiots are going to screw up the movement. You know, that's exactly what it is. So, again, this is going to give the left fuel against the right. And I don't know, man. If you're saying things like bringing back old terminology, or you're being like a weird Nazi about things, like that's just, it's not a good look, man. And it really doesn't make the rest of us look good either. Because now when people say Nazi, it's like, okay, what do you say to that? Like, oh, I'm not a Nazi, dude. Like, or if someone says you're racist, like, well, no, dude, I'm not racist. My friend's black. Like, dude, no, you can't. You just need to let it roll off your back. It's all water off a duck's back. Is that what it is? Water off a duck's back. Doesn't matter. Because if you try to like advocate for yourself, it's just like these people have already made their minds up. Even before this chat was leaked, they've made their minds up about the right. We've made our minds up about the left. It's going to take some really like centerized people. And the thing is, like, when you try to be a centrist too, they go after you for that because you're not picking a side. And it's so weird. It's like, why? Well, why do I have to align with you in every single aspect? Like, socialism is a good example because socialism is a good example of socialism is like the fire department, police department. We all pay taxes for all that stuff to be saved. I mean, they're not like, oh, well, you're too poor, I'm not going to put your fire out, or you're too rich, I'm not going to put your fire out, or I'll get to your fire faster because you're rich. And I know you could probably argue this with like paramedics going to like worse neighborhoods or cops going to like the ghetto. You know, they won't go there because of all the crime rates or whatever. But let's talk about it from this angle for 1 second. So they're not going to go to your fire because you live in the suburbs faster than they are going to go to your inner city fire. So the thing is, we pay for that. We pay taxes for infrastructure. We pay taxes for like rescue services, you know, police officers. Like, we pay for that stuff. It's something that is like we all pay into it, hopefully. So that's where I believe in like socialism is okay when it comes to stuff like rescuing services. But when it comes to things like, I'm going to pay for your universal basic income because you don't want to work, or I'm going to pay for your welfare because you don't want to work or you can't work. I mean, can't and won't is two different things. If you won't work and you're an able-bodied person, I don't want to pay for your food stamps. If you're a disabled person and I'm somehow paying for your disability through my taxes, that's fine. Because if you can't work, if you're not able-bodied, like, I will help you. Not like personally. Obviously, it's like a certain percentage that goes in, and people, you know, a certain percentage of your check goes in, and it's like federal, state, you know. But I just, why was I going to this? Yeah, like, I don't believe in socialism, but when it comes to things like paying into people like who can't take care of themselves, you know, like if they're elderly or they're disabled, or, you know, I'm paying for, I don't know, if you're paying like school programs in your area, like, I don't know if that goes to that. I could be speaking completely out of pocket with that, but it's something that's interesting because it's you want to be able to give back to your community, but you want to be able to give to people who need it, not people who just want to leech and take and take and take and take. No, so when I had posted something about socialism and how the people who are the biggest advocates for socialism are the ones who don't contribute to society that much anyways. People got pissed off. They said that, well, red states take more from the blue states, blah, 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 which is true. Red states have a higher poverty rate. They're bigger on welfare. And I guess I don't know the reasons why. It could be lower education. It could be less jobs. It could be less drive to go work. And that's tragic. I think there needs to be some sort of a reform for that. Like, there needs to be other jobs that are created. Well, no, people just need to get motivated. That's what I think. I have to sneeze. Hold on. No, it went away. That sneeze went away. Actually, kind of makes me mad. I was hoping for that. But when you start getting into socialism and communism, and we need to pay for, like, the wealthy need to pay for the poor, it's like, yeah, they really don't though. That's capitalism 101. You work hard to make your money, like you work hard to start your business. You deserve every payout at the end of the day. Like that's or every week or month or whatever. You deserve your own money. You shouldn't be giving that to people who will not be willing to work. So, and this isn't me like saying, screw people who can't work. Like that's no. Disabled people are completely exempt from that. I think those are the ones that you want to be helping. It's like, what are they going to do? So where was I going with that? Yeah, people just get butthurt online. It's so weird. If you try to be a centrist, they tell you that you're a pussy for being a centrist, and you're not taking a stance. Like you're just sitting on a fence like an idiot, and you're not contributing much anyway. It's like, okay, but I'm allowed to have my own views. If you're trying to gatekeep how I feel or what I believe in, then kick rocks, dude, because I don't care what you have to say. But it's weird when you try to gatekeep someone's political ideology. And I know there's a lot of people on the right that are guilty of that, and there's a lot of people on the left who are guilty of that because they try to gatekeep. And it's like, well, I have more morals and values than you because I believe that abortion is a basic human right or women's health care. Or I believe I have more morals and value than you do because I'm not for like mutilating kids' genitals. Like, it's both sides of the spectrum. It's just something that I think we're all arguing about some very, very pointless things right now that have nothing to do with anything because it's just somewhat distractions. Now, trans women going into women's restrooms or women's locker rooms, like I got into an argument with someone about civil rights, like women's civil rights. Like I feel like women's suffrage or, it's voting, but women's rights, like they thought all I was saying is that I was for, or that the women's rights was only for like restrooms. And that's not what I was saying at all. What I'm saying is if you allow trans women into your restrooms, you should be willing to abolish all women's rights that they fought to vote for women's private only spaces, private property rights, just do away with all of it. Because if you're going to allow men who have quote unquote, if they have a mental illness or if, they just want to identify as women, maybe they're just creepy perverts, they want to like rape women or whatever, or rape young girls. And that's why they go into the locker rooms to do it. You can't just identify as that and you just have like your dick hanging out in the locker room. It's weird. Or if you have a full beard and you're wearing a dress and you're wearing a wig and you go into a restroom, it's like, dude, I have daughters, I have a wife. And my whole priority is to 100% protect them from shit like that. Like if there was a dude lingering around the restroom, get out of here, dude. Like don't fucking do that. That's weird. And there's so much, I believe that there are people who do have gender dysphoria. I believe that. And I think it's something that is very tragic when you really get down to the root of it. But I think it's another thing that can probably be solved by like faith and solved by like giving your life to God and Jesus, because he'll take all that crap away from you. He'll take everything away from you. Your insecurities, your anxiety, your fear, your not feeling like yourself in your own skin. Like he'll take all that away because he made you in his image. And I know that this is not like the direction that this podcast should go, but I don't care. I can talk however I want to. And if you don't want to listen, if you're still listening, congratulations. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. But I do believe that there are I don't want to say that trans people don't exist. I think they do. I just think it's some sort of there's like a disconnect somewhere where they think that this is the only way that they're actually going to be happy and they'll truly accept them or they'll truly be accepted. It's like you won't be accepted because you can't accept yourself. But there's one person who will accept you, and that's God. He accepted you from before the minute, way before you were born. He's there. He was there for you. Like, that's what he wants. Like, he wants you to be happy. And he wants you to be in it for him. Because he wants to spend eternity with you. And that's something that's really hard for people to grasp. It's like, well, they think of it as like it's a pride issue because they think of it as like, oh, well, I want to be this person, or I don't want to submit. It's just weird to submit because I want to be confident. I want to be dominant. Like I want to be able to have control over my own life. Guess what, dude? You have zero control over your own life. You have free will, but at the same time, the wages of sin is death. Okay? You can do whatever you want in your life, but at the end, when time runs out, you're done. That's it. And you may not be going through some bad stuff right now. Okay? I know that, I want to talk to people who are struggling right now with like identity issues or anxiety or whatever issue you have. Fill in the blank, okay? Either your life is like, you can't catch a break, right? You think your life sucks. You're being abused. You're being mistreated. You feel like you don't matter. You're depressed. You're anxious. You have a lot of mental health issues. You are upset. You're pissed off at the world. You just got to remember that. How do I go about this I don't want to offend anybody, but at the same time, I don't care. There's only one solution. There's really only one solution to this, and it's just giving your life to Christ. That's the only solution that I've ever seen or I've ever known. And I know people, like, God's not everyone's bag, and that's fine. It's just, the thing is, I don't want to come off as like a self-righteous Christian, and that's the shitty part about like posting on social media, because a lot of the things I say come off as like I'm better than people, and that's not how I want to be perceived. I say things that are true in my mind, opinions. Like, I believe if you stand up for murdering children, then you're not a Christian. And you claim to be a Christian, you're not. You're really not. Then at that same point, but it's also on the other side of the coin, it's like if you're a Christian but you support the death penalty, it's like that's murder. It's still murder. And the thing is, Jesus said, not an eye for an eye. Turn the other cheek. It's tough to do that. It's tough to look at a sin as a sin. It's tough to look at every sin as a sin, because a lot of them that we see, like child molesters or rapists or murderers, like we look at them, we're like, ugh. But the thing is, Jesus still was thinking about that person too. When he died on that cross, he gave his life, But what I was getting to, I was somehow getting into like trans people, and I think the issue, and I come off blunt, and I don't care. It doesn't matter. So I think the thing with like trans people is they want to be their own God because they don't believe in God. Either they were born into the church and they saw a very gross version of religion and they didn't want to conform to that. They wanted to do what they wanted to do. And I think a lot of that is they want to be their own God because they don't like the way that God made them, and they think God made a mistake. When the thing is, God doesn't make mistakes. He makes you in his own image. He loves you. Sometimes the enemy just not even sometimes. He wants you to be in hell with him. That's all he wants. He wants you to be in hell with him. He doesn't want you to go to heaven. He doesn't want you to live past dying. He doesn't want you to be with Christ. He doesn't want you to be with God, because the problem is he knows how it all ends at the end of the day. He knows how it ends. And he can't stand it because he wants to take as many people down with him as he can. It's like a person who is completely negative and things are going great for their friend group around them. And they want to just complain and sulk, and they want to, cry about their problems, and they want people to pay attention to them. And essentially, they don't want good things to happen to their friends. They want to take them down with them. That's Satan. That's the enemy. He knows how his end is going to be. He doesn't want anyone else to go on the other side. He knows the battle's already been won. That's what he knows. He doesn't want anyone else to live past dying. He doesn't want you to spend eternity with your Creator. He wants you to suffer with him because he loves that. He thrives on that. He's the God of this world. Satan is the god of this world, and that's all he ever will be. That's the most he'll ever be. And it's sad because you see so much of it happening now where people are so upset about if you even bring up the name Jesus, they get so mad. I've been watching like street preachers where they talk about Christ and they testify to people, or they give the good news of the gospel. And there are people who actively get upset if you name Jesus, and they're like, get out of my face. I don't want to hear that. And it's like, that's truly demon possession. If you get that upset about someone talking about what they believe, then you got some issues, man. And I see it all the time, but there's certain videos where people will come in and they'll be upset at first, or they'll be, they will say, "Oh, I'm an atheist. I don't believe in this. I don't believe in God." And they'll be open to a conversation. They'll be open to prayer at the end of it. They'll be open to a respectful conversation. And I think that's where we need to go with it. I think we need to look at it as like, maybe we just need to all start talking to each other. And that's why I want people who have different opinions than I do to come and talk to me. Like, I want to be able to have conversations. I want to know, like, what do we have in common? And what, if we don't have to agree on everything. I don't agree with people on everything. That's fine. That's not my issue. So, I don't know. It's a weird thing. It's weird, and I just want it to be better. I want, and the thing is, like, I know that I come off as a self-righteous Christian online, and if I've done that, I apologize, because I don't think that I'm better than anybody. I don't want to think that I'm better than anyone, because I know I'm not. The thing is, I've done a lot of messed up things in my life and that I'm not proud of, but God, And if I could, I know I said this in the last episode, but I'll say it again. If I could give someone, I know I could plant a seed. I can post a picture of like Christ and this long drawn out description of the photo, or like what he did for us. It's like, he can take the worst of the worst, man. He can take the worst of the worst, and if you just give it to him, like, he'll love you forever. He does love us. So anyway, that's my spiel, guys. I appreciate you hanging out, and have a good rest of your weekend. Peace out.